Hello and welcome to yet another episode of Hello America's What's Cooking. It's a great pleasure to be your host today. My name is Xenia Paul. I'm the Regional Director for ECA North America, and you can find us here on LinkedIn Live every Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern. And for those who have been always following us, we would love to hear you welcome our guest and ask any questions. Please feel free to give my guest today also a big shout out. And without further ado, Ed, welcome to our episode.
Thank you for having me.
And before we get started, would you be able to introduce yourself as well as your company and what you do?
Do we have enough time? Put the shock collar leash on me. So Edward Perotti, and I am the principal of Edward Perotti Events and Experiences. I have been in the event industry for 29 years now. I mainly in the corporate section, doing everything from user conferences, sales kickoffs, incentive trips. About 15 years ago, I started branching off and having a little bit of a what we'd call side hustle. And that has turned into something a little bit bigger than a side hustle, to where I have now left the corporate day-to-day 24/7 environment and have now completely gone with my own shingle.
That's so great. And I think that is one of the reasons we wanted to have you here on our show today to share a little bit more about some of your experiences, both from your corporate world as well as your new experiences. And when we chatted before our event today, you were talking about your passion for events and event design and what events mean for the community. But we have also come to the conclusion the world has changed. In your opinion, how has it changed the way we meet?
Wow. I mean, that's a big question. I mean, I think first off, this needs to be a little bit of a 12-step program, and we all just need to go with the first step and admit that it has changed. No dancing around, no more hemming and hawing. It's different. COVID and our 2-year, 2.5 year, however long you were down for, has fundamentally changed the way people think and the way people are comfortable gathering. They no longer feel forced or shamed or culturally correct to be present live, right? We have created an environment where people have a voice. Thank God for that. But there's a flip side to that, that it does pose the challenges. But what really has changed is that people now have options. They've had them before, but we as an industry have been going down that same track, doing the same thing over and over and over and over again, to where nobody realized that there were really other options. And now, 17 days makes a habit. Well, we had 2 years. Now people have finally clicked with, I don't have to get on a plane and go. I can stream in there. Or, I can go live, but I can actually download this breakout and go to this one instead. So they're realizing that they can now have a voice, a say in their event experience, which before we never gave them.
And that leads me into my next question. But before that, just a quick hello to my colleagues, Monica, who's giving us a shout out from Texas. But we also have a shout out from Amsterdam, from my colleague Lupin, and from our joint friend Peter from Berlin in Germany. Thank you all for joining us today, and we hope will be inspirational with our chat today. Talking about designing experiences, that is your mantra forever and ever.
Yes.
What do you exactly mean by designing experiences?
So I am and we were talking briefly about this before we went live. I'm a child of the theater. I have been in theater since my parents threw me on stage when I was about 5 years old. I had the most horrendous lisp. I didn't speak a whole lot. And so they thought the idea of putting me in front of an audience would be a good way to get me out of my shell. did they create a monster. I think they regret it every day. Um, but what that did was it just taught me audiences' reactions to words, to watching, and to seeing things. And as I got older, I started doing the same thing with movies. I actually would watch the movie, but I was more into the audience experience. I mean, I remember when Jaws came out, it was the first time in a movie theater where you didn't hear a paper crinkle, you didn't hear somebody cough. It was dead silent. And that itself added to the experience of that movie. And when I fell into meetings, to me, it was the same thing. Meetings are basically theater, right? Events are basically theater. We are taking content that somebody is giving us, which is no different than a playwright giving us a script. And we're creating that the moment you register, the moment you walk into a lobby, you see the set, you hear the words, the lighting, the sights, the sounds, the smells, and then working with them on that roller coaster emotion ride, that they come out with this positive experience that ties back to either the host or hostess or the organization in some way, so that there's going to be something that everyone will connect to. So designing it, you really need to look at the whole and look at your attendee base, look at your corporate culture, look at what's going on, and find those little nuggets, and you weave those into it so it's different every time.
So, and this is really inspiring one question, which I think I'm really asking on behalf of the ECA community. When most of our audiences, most of the meeting planners within our community are association meeting planners. They are on a shoestring budget. So, how can they deliver those red carpet experiences? How can they really do something the movie producers, the theater producers do on no budget?
Well, let's just level set right off the bat. Hollywood and Broadway are the cheapest on the planet. So if we're talking about budgets, there aren't any. Everything is supposedly for free because of name recognition. I don't believe in that. I believe every vendor needs to be paid properly. But regarding the association market or just anybody on a shoestring budget, it's all about the creativity. It's all about how are you looking at things. I spent so much of my life, and it's kind of become a little bit of a personal mantra, is I don't look at things for what they are. I look at for what they can be. So yes, you have a shoestring budget, but there are ways to create a stage set that's different. I actually had a program, a 4-day conference for the Directors Guild in Hollywood, and it was all about technology. Well, they had no money. And so as I started listening to them and listening to the content, everything that I gleaned off of them was that the tech is not in front of the camera, the tech is behind the camera. So what I ended up doing was finding old theater palette sets of the walls, all the different, it didn't matter, and I flipped them around. So it was the backside of a stage set that would say enter left, and it was framed and everything else. The front side nobody saw. It was mixed matches of houses or gardens or whatever. But the whole idea was I immersed people in this idea of you're going to hear about things that are behind the set. So why not do that? And it ended up being dirt cheap because they were old used pieces that in San Diego, where the event was, I went to the local theater and asked to borrow their backgrounds and, paid them a small fee, and boom, it was done. So it's not looking at things. It's not a challenge, right? Don't look at those budgets as I've got no money to spend. I don't know what I'm going to do. It's like, okay, what are you trying to say? What's the message? And find a different way to deliver that message.
I just love it. And what we always say is when you're organizing events, know your audience and what you want to achieve. So would you say that our event professionals today, is this an opportunity? Should they look for different type of skill sets to really enhance, to be more creative, to be thinking not outside of the box, but think the box away.
So I'm going to be the first to say that I never used a term outside the box, because that implies that you're actually in one. So I would take that right away and tell them to take that out of their vocabulary. I'm going to say that not everybody, I don't want to generalize, but almost all event professionals have that creative brain. They're thinking that when you say creative to an event professional, they think pretty and shiny. But we're all creative in how we manage our budgets, how we weave in the collab. It's already there. They just need to realize that it's a different tool and a different lens that they just need to sharpen. The free thinking is already there if they're doing the rest of their job properly. It's nothing to be scared of. They just need to trust their gut.
Thank you so much, and I will definitely take this recording and showcase it at every kind of event. We'll meet with event professional and just say, be brave, be bold, trust yourself, and let's get on with it. We have so many stakeholders in this whole event production part, and talking about, yeah, so event professionals should and meeting planners should be more creative, should really trust that they can achieve something glamorous without having a lot of money. But what could hotels and venues do to contribute for better meeting design and better experiences?
Other than actually taking the 2 years of being shut down through COVID to figure things out, which they didn't. Ooh, I said I wasn't going to say that.
Oh my
Um,
goodness. No, no, no. You know what they do on live television? Beep, beep.
yeah, no, keep that one, because I think a little provocative and a little kick in their pants is a good thing. Um, I really think they need to take a step back and stop. We understand everybody needs to recoup their revenue from the past 2 years. We know it. We see it in the rates. We see it in everything going on. We get it. Stop talking about it. Move on. What the hotels need to now do is to start pulling in the us's to spend time. Like I would buy my ticket and pay for my hotel and fly across the world if I knew that I could get in front of a hotel chain's general manager's team, all the general managers of a brand, and talk to them about what the properties now need to do to step up. What is the mindset of the event professional? What are they going up against internally? We've had 2 years of COVID, 2.5 years of COVID. For most organizations, finance has taken over because they've been so worried about the OpEx. So they're navigating things that they've never really had to navigate. They're trying to satisfy so many different chiefs between finance and marketing, the stakeholder, all of this, that they're losing their voice. And I think the hotels, by listening to this, and the general managers and the owners giving more rope, so to speak, to those frontline hotel employees, the sales, for being able to bob and weave depending on the needs, and also making a capital investment on new equipment. I don't want to have a buffet anymore. Regardless, I hated them to begin with. I like the experience of having chefs and stations and doing creative pieces and individual plates. I'm a big believer in watching the food waste. That's another way to control it. They can sell it that way. But the hotels need to do the same thing that we're doing, is take a step back and worry about their revenue, but the revenue is going to stop if they don't change with the times.
And there's two things which come to mind, is really being more sustainable, and you can't afford not to in the long run, because the food waste and all the other elements are gonna cost more. And secondly, we collaboration. Our the theme of our Congress was together we can. Yes, and the hotels themselves can do it. And I hear you really emphasizing this collaborative effort.
I mean, it does. And if the hotels want the repeat business, that's how they're going to get it.
Yeah. And I'm not going to go into another trend, which is which we are facing as event professionals, where leisure is taking over the meeting element. We'll leave that for another day. We've been provocative enough. Here is one question I would love for you to answer. If you had a crystal ball, what would the meetings of the future look like?
I if I had a crystal ball, I definitely want to I definitely want to say that I see hybrid not going away. But let's preface that hybrid is not a streaming service. Hybrid is a personal experience for each attendee, regardless of where they are, right? And I think that's something that we just as an industry need to come to a consensus so that when we say the word, everybody understands it, and then we can start educating our internal stakeholders on really what a hybrid is. So I don't see that going away. I see that actually getting bigger. And I see because of the hybrid, we get to go down a path that we've never been able to in regarding inclusivity. I think the hybrid experience, hands down, it doesn't force the issue. It just makes the issue a non-issue because everybody could have the same experience regardless. So, it's not this I'm being invited to the party. I don't know if I can go. I'm being invited to the party and the party's designed for me. How amazing is that? And I do think that's where we're going. I think my crystal ball would tell me that we're not going to get there until this latest generation of leadership has moved on and the next generation steps in because they see it as a just is versus a box that they have to check off to make sure that they're keeping their stakeholders happy or their shareholders happy.
And I couldn't have said it better, and left all our viewers and audiences with those thoughts of what is needed, what should be considered for the future of our events, and we have to do it together. We have to really shape that future to be more inclusive, to be more sustainable. And when you were introducing yourself, you did not tell us about your connection to Holland and the Netherlands. So they don't know that your favorite food is friet and frikandel, but I do. So you will have to tell us: is there any other food you like? Any other restaurants, recipes you would like to share?
Oh my Lord. Well, if anybody goes to Amsterdam or is in Amsterdam, for me, I have to go to the pantry. The pantry is as close as I can get to my Oma's food and my Oma's cooking. We literally were just there, as you know, 2 weeks ago. And I made a point of making sure that I had all of my childhood foods. For the audience, my father is Italian second generation San Francisco, and my mother is direct Holland, direct Dutch. Used to spend 3 to 4 months every year there as a child. So it's kind of home for me. But the food is, I had to have my herring. I had to have my smoked eel. I had to have my frikadelle. I had to have my sak patats. I had to go and find my sambal and had to have my Indonesian food. The bitballs, the olibolen, all of the stuff that actually will give me a heart attack and kill me because it is all fried, but it didn't matter. There is something about the Dutch food for me that is comfort. Not even Italian food doesn't, a good pasta dish. I love the taste of it, but give me my potatoes and kale and my speck, give me that with a sausage. And I, yeah, you just, a smile comes on my face and my waist gets bigger.
Yes, and I just unleashed your whole Dutch cooking
Well, and just so you know, the
inspiration.
link you sent me, apparently I exceeded the weight limit that they'll ship for within the costing, I kind of lost my mind in the store.
Yes, I shouldn't have sent you that link for the Dutch expat store in the US. Thank you so much, and thank you everybody who was listening in. It was such a pleasure, and we could be talking about the event design experiences. We could talk about Dutch food for ages, and now we already have also additional recipes and inspiration besides the Dutch apple pie, which I spoke about with one of our other guests. Just left to say that whoever wants to get in touch with Ed, you're welcome to visit his website, which is edwardaperotti.com, or connect with Edward on LinkedIn. And anybody who is interested in joining me as a guest, please feel free to email me at xenia.p@ecoworld.org. It was such a pleasure to have you today, Ed, and thank you so much for joining us. And next week we won't have an episode of Hello Americas because we have Thanksgiving in the US and we'll be both cooking, I'm sure.
Oh no, I'm not.
You found somebody who will cook for you.
This year mama
Absolutely
raised
great.
no
That's the
fool.
best tip probably from today's episode. Find somebody to cook for you. Thank you so much, Ed. And thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye.